Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Today is Monday, November 4th, 2024. This is our 3 p.m. public land use hearing. As is our tradition, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all. My name is John Kafalis, the current chair of the Board of County Commissioners residing in District 1. I'm joined by my colleagues, Kristen Stevens, the commissioner residing in District 2, and Jody Sheddock McNally, commissioner residing in District 3. Behind us, we have Deirdre O'Neill from the Clerk and Recorder's Office. She is recording this meeting and taking notes, and we appreciate her service very much. Across the way, we have our one of our assistant county attorneys, Frank Haug, and then folks from planning. We have one discussion item before we get into introductions of the planning folks and engineering and health and environment. We have one public hearing discussion item, no consent agenda items, and that particular item, we'll get into it in a moment, is the Wolf Properties LLC appeal, file number 24 GNRL 0559. So with that in mind, folks, thank you all for being here. I'd like to turn it over to Jenny, who can introduce folks and then provide a little bit of context.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jenny Axmaker. I'm the planning manager. I'm joined at the dais with our county planner, Laura Culleton, and our admin support for this land use hearing, Christina Scretchens. Also joined across the way by our community development director, Rebecca Everett. We have Leah Schneider from our health and environment department, as well as David Pringle from our engineering department. With that, we respectfully request that all members of the audience silence their electronic devices. Please help yourself to a copy of the agenda and hearing procedure instructions, which are located on the wall just to the right of the hearing room entrance, and they're also posted on the website at larimer.org/BOCC/commissioners-meetings if you're joining us via Zoom. Please wait to speak until you're recognized by the chair. Please maintain civility, refraining from audience applause, comments, or disruptions, whether positive or negative. Please make all comments to the Board of County Commissioners from the podium. We do have a portable microphone available if needed. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and provide the spelling of your name if it's unique. Please speak directly into the microphone so that remote participants may also hear. Upon request, we do have assisted listening devices available for the hearing impaired. For those of you on Zoom, attendees will be muted until they are recognized by the chair. If an online attendee wishes to speak or request a consent item to be removed, please use the raise your hand function on the Zoom control bar or *9 on your phone. With that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we'll get started with the first discussion item, and I'm going to provide a little bit of background before Laura jumps in.
Yes, please proceed, Jenny.
You want to go to the first slide? All right. The county's land use code has adequate public facilities requirements to protect health, safety, and welfare by requiring buildings to have necessary services to support their use. One of these requirements limits the use of wells for new development. So this is section 4.3.7b, which states that for a development to be served by a well, it must meet the following 5 criteria. So the first criteria says it cannot physically be served by a distribution system that's within 1 mile of the development. The second one says that the development is outside of any existing or planned water district and/or water service area. The next one describes when an augmentation plan might be required. The fourth criteria talks about evidence is submitted showing adequate water quality and quantity can be made available for the development and talks about the types of evidence that would be accepted. And then the last criteria talks about a well that's part of a larger collection, treatment, and distribution systems for a larger scale development. So the case before you this afternoon is an applicant who wishes to drill a well on a property within the Northern Colorado Water Association service area. This water association is no longer issuing any new water taps and is under an indefinite moratorium. The Water Association does not object to the well, but the new well would conflict with these standards. This is a situation that wasn't contemplated by the Land Use Code and thus is resulting in the request for an appeal. It's worth noting that this is not the only property owner in this position where they own property they wish to develop but can no longer get a tap to supply the water from the Northern Colorado Water Association. It's also worth clarifying that the Northern Colorado Water Association is not a special district like the Eastern Larimer County Water District or the South Fort Collins Water District, which collects taxes. They view themselves as a member-owned association where members pay the base fee and then water rates, but nothing else on top of that. Staff has not made a recommendation on this case as it is a new issue for the board to consider and one that was not created by anything that the county did, but is a result of the issuance of a moratorium by the Northern Colorado Water Association. Laura's going to walk you through the specifics of this case, but I wanted to pause and see if the board had any questions regarding the background on this situation, as well as to encourage the board to consider having a work session to discuss this issue further.
Thank you, Jenny. Colleagues, do you have any questions or comments for Jenny Uxmacher? Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
So with this association that you're speaking of, how are they elected to by the neighbors or the association to those positions, or are they self-appointed? How is that structure? Is it a recognized formal structure, or what?
They describe themselves as a member-run organization, so I believe they are appointed within the people who are currently members, but I do not know that for certainty.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Stevens, anything?
Yeah, do we know, I mean, you said this probably is an issue that might affect more than one. Do we have any idea of how many people might be affected by this at all?
We've had at least a handful, if not more, number of property owners reach out to us. I can tell you the general boundary of this Northern Colorado Water Association. They don't have a specific defined boundary, but at the north, it's County Road 80. At the south, it's Douglas Road. To the west, it's County Road 19, and to the east, it's Weld County Road 3. So that's not an insignificant area.
Do you know approximately how many acres or square miles that is?
I unfortunately do not.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, colleagues. And the only comment I'll make, Jenny, is I support your suggestion that we have a future work session to discuss the policy implications based on the outcome of today's hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, at this time, I believe we can turn it over to Laura, our planner 2, I believe.
Thank you, Commissioner. So for this specific property, it's located at 6233 East County Road 62, which is about 2 miles east of I-25 and County Road 62. The property is 38.21 acres in size. It's in the O Open Zone District. And currently there's an existing single unit residence that's serviced by the Northern Colorado Water Association and a septic system. The applicant is proposing to convert this existing home to an accessory living area, and then they're proposing to build a new, larger primary residence, which we can get into a little bit. So the applicant is requesting approval of an appeal to sections 437B1 and 437B2 of the Land Use Code for proposed single unit residence to use to use a well as the primary domestic water source within the Northern Colorado Water Association area. So then again, the proposed uses would be the existing home that was built in 2008. That would be converted to an accessory living area, and it would stay connected to the public water. And then there'd be a proposed larger single unit residence that would be constructed, and they would use a well, which is where this appeal is required. And they would also use septic. So on August 23rd of this year, Larimer County received notice that the Northern Colorado Water Association will no longer be approving new water service for any new memberships or accessory dwelling units. Therefore, the applicant is not able to connect their newly proposed single-unit residents to public water service. The applicant is requesting approval of this appeal so that they may utilize a well inside the Water Association boundaries as the domestic water source for their proposed primary residence. And then again, the existing single-unit residence that is going to be converted to an ALA will remain connected to Northern Colorado Water. We received comments from Larimer County Engineering, Larimer County Health Department, Northern Colorado Water Association, and the Division of Water Resources. We did not receive any neighborhood comments. And then here I have the review criteria for appeals, which is also outlined in the staff report, and I'm happy to go through these more if you need. And then, as Jenny mentioned, we are not making a specific recommendation on the Wolf Properties LLC appeal, and we have presented all of the information by which the Board of County Commissioners may base their deliberation and decision. And then we have our two suggested motions, a motion of denial and then a motion of approval with 5 conditions of approval, which we're happy to explain further as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. At this time, it's an opportunity for the commissioners, if we have questions for staff. Do either of my colleagues have questions for the planner or for anyone else from our staff that's here? Commissioner Shannock McNally.
So, I see on our thing, Laura, that there was highlighted on slide number 5 or page number 5. The highlighted was, well, that proposed, is that the appeal today or is that another appeal?
That's the appeal today.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No. Commissioner Stevens?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
I thank you, colleagues, and I have just a couple of questions. I think one is probably directed to our to Leah in our county health and environment. The applicants, the company that they work with on their regarding the well, have indicated that they've done some analysis or assessment, and there's there would be adequate quantity and quality regarding the proposed well. And I believe in your referral agency comments, Leah, you may have stated that there wasn't enough information to be conclusive about that. Can you clarify that, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
We we received so yes, the well driller provided information, and when you drill a well, there's going to be a recovery rate that kind of sets your minimum gallons per hour of the the water between all of our soil, sand particles, and everything like that, and it's a production rate. So I provided that in discussions with Division of Water Resources, they had mentioned that 0.5 gallons per minute is like the bare minimum, and you would need supplemental storage and things like that to help provide pressurized water to your fixtures in the house. But a lot of production reports, we have to wait till we actually get in and drill the well. Examples were provided of other wells within a few thousand feet of this property, and they were all shown to be very productive, 4 gallons and higher, I believe, or 4 gallons per minute and higher. But maybe there's an aquifer in this area that's smaller or more productive, so we can't until we actually start drilling the well and exploring.
Thank you. That's helpful. Maybe one more question, and again, so folks are clear on the process. If once we're done with our questions, then the applicants, you all would have some time to make your presentation. It'd be helpful to know how much time you think you may need, and we can ask questions, and then we would open it up for public comment if there is any in person or online. and then you would all have an opportunity to respond to any public comment, and then ultimately we would do our best to deliberate and make an informed decision. That's kind of how it works. A question I have, I think it's appropriate to ask you, and that is, so as I understand the application, currently there's a residence, a smaller square footage home that ultimately would become an accessory living area, and then the primary residence would be a new construction, and I'm sure you folks will get into that. But regarding the ALA, do the applicants know that an ALA cannot be used for a short-term rental purpose?
Yes, they are aware. They actually initiated the accessory living area process with us before it was allowed by right. And so they've been kind of working with us for a while now on that.
Okay, thank you. And hopefully in your presentation, maybe you can get into that a little bit. So I don't have any other questions. Anything else, colleagues, before we move on to the applicants? Okay. So I don't know how you folks. I assume you three are connected to the property. Who would like to come forward and present, or is this a tag team effort? Or
Time to do that now?
yeah, please. And sir, if you would be kind enough to introduce yourself and also let us know how much time you folks think you'll need to present.
Perfect. My name's Dave Wolf, and Jaden is my son, who is purchasing or has purchased the property, and Caleb is his contractor and future father-in-law. Very soon. We're excited about that. I think 10 minutes is probably
Okay.
would take care of all three of us.
So if we could put on the timer if we need that, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
You bet. So I've lived in the area or on a property, 160 acres, 1 mile east of the proposed subject property for 40 years. And in that time span, I've built houses, barns, arenas, roads, septic systems, everything from here to there. And I have followed the rule of law per the county on every single instance. So I know there's a procedure. I know there's a right way to do it. And for sure, there are wrong ways to do it, which we do not want Jaden to do. When he expressed interest in the property, I advised him to be sure to comply with all county permitting requirements. I said it started with assurance that he could get water and electricity before purchasing the property. He came to Larimer County and was advised to contact NCWA for water compliance and approval. He did that. He contacted NCWA and they said that even though there was a moratorium on new water taps, he would be allowed to connect to the existing water tap already on the property. They had given him permission to do that. He also contacted Poudre Valley REA and received approval for electricity service before buying the property. He then bought the property. I suggested that he also apply for a well permit since I had heard that Wellington was in a water shortage situation and the cost was rising rapidly. He applied for a well permit and received it in September of 23 after purchasing the property the November before in 2022. Jaden's intention was to buy the property for his future home. And as parents and grandparents, hopefully to be, anytime you can get a son within a mile of your house, you're excited. That was our hope and our plan, still is. As his dad, I wanted to be sure that I advised him correctly before purchasing a $430,000 property and making over $200,000 of improvements since the purchase. These improvements include remodeling the existing house, planting trees, reseeding the grass, pipe fencing all along the property line. Everything looked great until the goalposts were moved by NCWA, making the decision that he could no longer connect to the existing tap that he already owned, which they had already given him approval that he could. Additionally, to the Due to the lack of communication by the state water board, he was allowed to apply for and receive a well permit without being made aware of the 1 mile limitation of a well within a public community water system. He was not told about that. He was not made aware of that. He applied for the permit and they said yes, and he has the permit for the well. We are asking for approval of this appeal since he has been placed in this hardship situation, even though he did his due diligence with all green lights from NCWA, the State Water Board, and Larimer County. That's my 2 cents worth. I'll let Caleb come up and visit with you also.
Thank you, David. Welcome, Caleb.
I'm Caleb Kramer, and it's Kaleb Kramer. Again, I think Dave covered a lot of it there. The main thing is, I think that the biggest thing that created the hardship for Jaden and his future family is the fact that he did try to do his due diligence. He came to the county, I came with him to the first county meeting, and we met with a planner, and we met with, I apologize, this was the part that we should have done is got this all in writing, but we met with everyone. They said, yep, you can do this. You can put a secondary home. You'll have to apply for an ALA. You need to get approval from the water district because of the tap that's already existing, and we did that. Went and talked to Tom there, and he said, yeah, absolutely, we're under moratorium. You can drill a well, you can use a tap off of the existing, and then in August of this last year they changed that. So in the meantime, a 22-year-old young man that's working very hard to start his life has spent his entire life savings in order to do this, and now it's being placed on hold, which is understandable with going through the right processes and getting it done properly. But I think that's something definitely to think about, and the fact that the improvement to the land with the larger primary home, with the surrounding properties kind of doing the same thing, is only going to bring property values up in that area and make everything around there even more valuable. And I think without that, the hardship becomes worse because the property is devalued. If a denial is put in place, then even if you had to get it all out and start over with everything, the value of the property would be a lot less than what it is now due to that. So that's kind of mine. Is there any questions for anyone?
Thank you, Caleb. Was Jaden, were you going to speak at all?
Yeah.
And then we'll see if there are any questions. But why don't you come on up, Jaden, add to the story a little bit.
I think they covered most of it. I would say I don't know if it's in the boundary of NCWA. I know the boundary line is County Road 3, and I'm on the east side of that county line, or on that county road. And I know they told me I'm the only property east of County Road 3 that is serviced by NCWA. So I'm not sure if that changes anything. And I seen something too that NCWA doesn't have a hard boundary line. And I don't know if that changes anything, whether I'm, within their service area or not, if that's a strict boundary line or anything. But other than that, I think they got most of it there. So I appreciate your guys' time.
Great. Thank you, Jaden.
Thank you.
Colleagues, do you have any questions of the applicants, Commissioner? Anything?
I think it was Caleb Kramer. You said about the property values, but the home current. I just wanted to know if you had I wanted to ask you a question about your thoughts on that. If you could come up.
Sure.
Thanks. Absolutely. So you said the property already has a home with water service and a tap and improvements. So
Correct.
It is a property that has home with water and so it could be. It's still
Sure.
probably worth something because it's
absolutely.
It's not really because it's something that has a home that's been upgraded and has a tap that's working, and that might be valuable because they do have water tap.
Correct. Yeah. No, I don't think it's devalued what he's originally purchased it for, but the fact that he made the improvements for the new house, which is quite a few 100 feet from where the existing is, with building driveways and all the different things and pipe fencing and all that. That would be the part that it's hard for him to get back out, just because it was it's useless without the new home, which again was the whole point was of purchasing that property and going through that process. So.
And if I might, so with your knowledge, and I'll ask staff this too, this sounds like the majority of this water district is in a different county, and this one just crosses over this side. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, it's the only property on the east side that they claim to service. I hadn't heard that the property, the soft line for them in their district was County Road 3, because I don't know how they don't. I'm not sure if they have a hard. I'm assuming somewhere they have to have a hard line that says we don't service anything further than this, but maybe it's the next county road.
I'm going to ask. I'm done with you. Thank you. I was sorry. I was going to ask staff. Do we know if there's a hard line or a service district, or what? What is this? It sounds like a very informal.
It is. It is not like a special district where there's a designated district boundary with a mill levy and elected officials and a board. It is, as I explained earlier, they claim to be a members-only association, that they have a well field that they get water from, and they provide it to their members, but it doesn't have the same formality that a special district would.
And do you know if they stopped using that water tap, they would disconnect, they wouldn't have to pay dues anymore, or what does that look like?
If they were to stop using the tap, I would assume they would stop paying rates, but they would have already purchased the tap, and I don't know if they would get any refund.
And do we have many water districts that cover, I mean, this is probably a really out of the blue question. I apologize if you might not have this information, but do we have a lot of water districts in Larimer County that spans 2 counties that way? Do we know?
I might see if Leah can answer.
Yeah, we do actually. Districts, not in this format like Northern Water, but like what's the South Fort Collins? No, Fort Collins Loveland Water. They do go across outside of our county, and I want to say Elko. No, I can't remember, but I do know we have one example where the district goes beyond.
Okay,
I believe we do have properties served by North Weld within Larimer County, which would go across the county boundary.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Are you good for now? Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any questions or thoughts for the applicants or perhaps staff?
I guess one question I have for staff is that are there many sort of, it feels like a kind of a co-op type model like this, or are they mostly water districts? Are they?
We have a variety. So I think it's West Fort Collins is more of an association. Sunset is more of an association. So we do have both types of districts or groups within our county.
And then one of the questions that I have for the applicant is, what happens if you, so what comes first, the well or the house? Do you find out if you have water and then build the house, or do you build the well first? And
I think and that's actually my comment anyway, under her question and recommendation for quality of water, I think that is knowing what the well companies have told us and the assurance that they're saying, no, that you'll have water, it does have to go pretty deep. Sounds like they're going to be, over 500 feet probably to get quality water, but that's fine. I think that's the one thing on the planning department's letter that we're totally willing to do that and go ahead and do the well to go ahead and bring the testing back in. However, I think, just a fair part of that would be get approval to do that before saying, hey, we're going to spend a whole lot of money to drill a well, to bring in evidence without even having approval that we can continue and case this well and go ahead and continue to build. So that would be our kind of contingency, I think, on that.
And in your experience, when with that sort of assurance, I mean, do you feel like that's a very educated opinion?
Yeah, I think so. Just because
we obviously have, a land use code in front of us that doesn't want to approve something where we we don't want it to get an even worse kind of situation than is already existing, right?
No, actually, I appreciate that too. So, but I think, based on the fact that Dave is a mile down the road, right in line, and the fact that they have numerous other wells in the area that they've been able to get water and good quality water with, like you said, 4.5 plus gallons a minute. I think there's a pretty good assurance that that's doable and that it's not a huge risk that is adding to what's already been done. So,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, colleagues. Caleb, hope you're good with getting some steps in here this afternoon. Just regarding the conditions of approval, you all are aware of the 5 conditions of approval? Yes?
Yes.
And if I may, it seems to me that 2 of those conditions of approval speak to the 2 of the points that my colleagues made. One is that number 3, the planning division would need to receive information that shows that there's adequate water quality and water quantity before a building permit is issued. And I think that specifically speaks to that point. And I believe a point that Commissioner Shattuck McNally made, it seems like condition number 2, the existing residence must maintain its connection with the NCWA as long as it's a habitable structure. So if the intended use is an accessory living area, then that connection will continue. And then if some things change in the future, there might be some other opportunities, and that the well would be the primary source, and that any storage like cisterns would be supplementary, as I understand things. Is that your understanding, sir?
That is our understanding. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And that's where the getting the approval for, or getting the appeal to go ahead with the well is okay with us, and being that would still be something we could, go ahead and risk, put that in, and take that on ourselves as a risk, and then bring those results in to get the final building and permit approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, Commissioner. It looks like you're not off the hook yet. Sorry about that.
So, I have a little bit of knowledge in this background in this and experience, not professional, but just experience. I'm just curious.
Sure.
Usually when you buy a property and you're looking to build on it, you test soils and expensive soils. We have some radon, and usually I'm just curious. I know there are other structures there, but if you're going to build another field, you'd want to do like a water table to make sure you weren't building on expansive soils or a house that might be groundwater might be higher than you think, and it might shift. So, is that? Usually
All completed.
That was all completed
It is,
before
yes.
the property was bought.
We had soils reports from before, and then we've since had more soils testing done, specific to where the location of the home and everything was going to be.
And the water tap and the water table level and all that was done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so that showed you maybe where you thought the water table might be.
It's the entire for septic engineering, for the home engineering, everything, all the water, all the soils testing was completed, and everything came out great.
Before purchasing and looking.
Yeah, the original soils report was given to Jaden right at the time or before purchasing the property. Yeah, you can come up.
Okay.
He's dealt with some of that himself, but through the soils engineers.
Yeah.
So when we got the soils, I think it's a whole different aquifer on topsoil and the water on the topsoil compared to quality water for a well. And they gave us that, and obviously the top water soils that we got, that's not suitable for a well. So from quality well, I've had a lot of meetings with them and stuff because it's $100,000 well, and I don't want to go ahead with all this stuff before I knew everything. And they sent me a letter, and I think it's in your packet. But they've done quite a bit of testing. They actually came and drilled 100-foot deep just to see another soils test, pretty much. And they found some water, but they figured we'd have to go probably 400 to 700 foot deep to get the right water. And in this, it says that they, in the matter of Wolf Properties LLC, Jaden Wolf and his property located at 6233 East County Road 62, Wellington, Colorado. It is our opinion that the water well pumping system can be drilled and installed under Division of Water Resources Permit 331818. It is our understanding that Northern Colorado Water Association provided a letter of non-opposition to the above-mentioned applicant to secure the water well permit, provided by the Colorado Division of Water Resources, as the supplier has indicated in the letter of non-opposition. They are in a tap moratorium, and no new taps will be sold. NCWA does not object to the well being drilled in the property. NCWA has stated that the moratorium on taps will be in place for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I
It
think
says,
it's-
as shown.
Yeah, I think it's on our page 15. It's the letter dated the oil Collie well and oil pump. Is that the letter
Yeah,
you're referring
and
to?
at the end it shows that they looked at all the wells in the area, and I went to multiple meetings with them, and they looked at every well in the same aquifer. All of them have over 5 gallons per minute. All the ones right around me have 8 to 10 to 12.
Okay.
And they said all those have quality of water. So just wanted to get that across because we have done our due diligence in making sure that there's quantity and quality of water in the area.
Thank you. And I just appreciate you clarifying that because, usually, you want to know
Yeah.
what you're building on. So I appreciate it. And I know that's also what Leah did just with the test reports from the other properties and their pump rates. So I appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, colleagues, before we go into public comment? Okie doke. So the way it works is the applicants had a chance to present, and now we want to give the public an opportunity to comment should there be any comment. And typically we begin with folks here in person. Is there anyone here in person who wishes to offer public comment regarding this land use proposal? All right, then Christina, would you please check online to see if there are folks clamoring online to offer public comment?
There are no attendees online.
No attendees.
Correct.
Thank you. Then I believe it's appropriate to close the public comment portion. And given that there has been no public comment, I don't believe there's anything for you folks to respond to. So we can now move into additional questions of staff and deliberation. Colleagues, do you have any further questions of staff before we move into deliberation? Yes?
So Laura and Jenny, I'm not sure who, or me, I don't know who to send this question to. When I looked at kind of some of the staff and the review criteria and some of the language with, that it's not consistent with the purpose and intent of the land code, but we're kind of in front of a conundrum, as you said, you use this word. We have a lot of Colorado conundrums. This could be opening a door for a lot of areas, and we're still, I think, in our water master plan, we're still not sure what the aquifer and some of the groundwater levels are and things like that. And so I'm curious, when you said this is a large area and lots of properties, just a ballpark, are we looking at dozens and dozens of homes, or is this going to be something that we're going to keep seeing coming forward, and that's necessary? That's why we necessarily need to have the policy in place. So I'm just curious, because you're right, it is not consistent with the land use code. So I'm curious.
Yeah, it is something new that the code, frankly, just didn't consider. It lumps these water associations into the same category as a special district, and those two entities do operate a little bit different, and there is some nuance there as I'm starting to learn. I believe I've personally interacted with about 6 different property owners who are in this situation. This specific applicant has one of the larger properties and has that 35 acres, which does make a difference with the state and the well status to their benefit. We do have some smaller properties that were subdivided with the expectation that they would have been served by Northern Colorado Water, but no longer can get service. So they will be stuck in this bind unless they were to request an appeal, as this applicant has, or we were to address this as a broader policy issue. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Commissioner Stevens, any questions of staff?
Just one question about the aquifer. So it's stated that that this would not be a drain on the aquifer. I mean, it literally would be some drain, but it wouldn't have a large impact on the aquifer. Is that something we will be kind of looking at with our water master plan and things like that, or are we taking the word for folks? Because we were also told that these people would provide water in this area, and people who bought this land were told that they would have water options, and then they weren't. So the picture on water supply and can change very, very quickly and kind of drastically. Do we have any indication about this aquifer?
So I will defer to Leah, but as far as the water master plan goes, one of the recommended outcomes from that master plan and follow up based on the Growing Water Smart workshop that we attended was to consider looking for funding to do a study of the aquifers, because staff does not have that information currently.
Thank you for reminding me about that. I didn't know if Leah had anything to add.
I will mention for individual wells, we actually don't have that data. We could probably research with the Division of Water Resources to see if they do, but I'm not sure they would either.
I mean, it's different probably for a single family home than it is for
like a community water system or something.
I would think so, or
Yeah.
like agricultural use or something, other kind of uses.
We also do have Frank who can provide some input.
Oh, Frank.
Frank Haug from the County Attorney's Office. Part of this is the state engineer, to my knowledge, does track all of that stuff. That's why there's certain parts of the state where you have to do additional testing if you're going to tap into aquifers. And so the state does, I think, track all of that stuff. The well permit that they're getting is what's called a domestic well permit, which is I think that's accurate, which is typically allowed if you have over 35 acres, you can get one, and you're not supposed to get one on property under 35 acres, but sometimes you can get them if they're grandfathered in or whatever else. But I think your question goes to making sure that the water isn't deteriorated around there, but that's why it's what's called an exempt well, because they don't have to go through a separate water court process to do I forget the term for when you have a plan an augmentation plan. So they don't have to do any of that. They just have to get this exempt permit, meaning it should not theoretically, according to the state, affect the overall water quality because it's exempt from that analysis.
Thank you. That's all really helpful. Thank you.
And before we go into deliberation, I have I think a simple question for Ms. Culleton. And that is, I just wanted to make sure that my interpretation of the 2 conditions of approval that I talked about earlier is accurate. Number 2 and number 3, I believe they are. I mean, the issue of the current structure, as long as it's habitable, it would keep the water tap and the access to the water. Is that correct so far?
For number 2, that's correct.
And for number 3, I think that was perhaps a subsequent condition of approval to address the issue of, I believe it's 4.3.7B2 regarding it's trying to ensure that adequate water quality, safe drinking water, as well as quantity.
I think it's number 4 in the land use code. But yes, that's correct. Number 3 is designed to assure that there's adequate water quality and quantity before they actually build the home.
Yeah, and before a building permit would be issued, they'd have to make sure that the well works to what has been suggested it will do.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Yes, Commissioner.
I think you and I were thinking the same questions and concerns. So with that conditional approval, the applicant's very aware that if that can't be proven that it's adequate, then that changes. What does that do to this Is that because that condition isn't met that the approval is changed? What does that mean? Just so I want to make sure we're kind of understanding kind of the importance of that.
So if we don't find that there is sufficient water quality and quantity information that's submitted, we won't be able to issue a building permit.
Okay, and then this is part of the land use code, but able to then they have to be able to show the required quantity and quality of the water supply to adequately supply the dwelling. It sounds like this is definitely something we're going to need to have as a policy talk, because it's really don't have, other than from the state, we don't really have confirmation of some of that for some of these homes out in this area, it sounds like. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good conversation. I believe now we can move into what's called the deliberation portion of the hearing. Let's see, Commissioner Stevens, I will ask you to begin that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sure. Well, thank you for bringing this forward. And I would say you have a bit of a conundrum here. Definitely had the rug pulled out from under you with a water provider who said one thing and then months later changed their tune about that, and that's a really rough situation to be in. I'm inclined to approve this appeal. I mean, for me, I understand. I wouldn't say it subverts the land use code as much as it as Ms. Axmacher said that that it's not the land use code didn't contemplate this. So, I keep looking at the idea that this is the parcel acreage is over 35 acres, and I mean, certainly the rural nature of this property and the size of this property, to me, lends itself to allowing the well to service this new primary residence on the property. So, definitely want to make sure that those conditions are in play. But I agree, because we're probably going to hear from other situations like this or similar, maybe with different size acreage, maybe as part of a subdivision, which this is not. I think that we really need to figure this out sooner than later with regard to our land use code, and also maybe will this be happening more in the future? Will we see this? And so I think this is a really good place for us to really have those kind of conversations, serious conversations about water. But in the meantime, like I said, the rural nature of this property, I think that it feels appropriate to have a well. And so I would be voting in approval with the conditions that are listed in our packet. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that is quite a conundrum. And it does seem the applicant has tried to follow the process and do his due diligence, and when you buy that large of an acreage and property, and that's why I asked some of those questions, just to understand that they had done all the things to understand what was underneath all of that. I think I do agree with the development services team that the Wolf Properties LLC, it did not submit sufficient evidence to confirm that the proposed well would comply with the section 4.3.7 point B4 of the land use code. And that's important because we want to make sure that we have adequate water supply for these homes. It is a large property, and um, and with having an ALA being converted, it could have quite a few folks using that water supply. So I do have concerns about that, and I understand why probably it's like I said, it's a conundrum about how you can't build the house without getting the well, and so it's a unfortunate situation to be in. So, and I do want to be careful that we're not setting this potential decision today. I don't want to start a precedent of future requests because as our planning manager has shared, there are other folks in the same situation, and so I want to really make sure we're kind of getting ahead of this because it is something that I'm concerned that we start approving a lot of wells and we don't know the level of the aquifer, the recharge, and all that, and we could be setting up conditions that are going to be not great. It's not just the next 5 or 10. This is, I always think about 100 years. Are we setting that up? Because certainly other areas have, other towns and folks are putting moratoriums or not allowing building permits because there's no water to do that. So it's something I think we should definitely be addressing sooner than later. However, knowing that staff is not making that recommendation, but I do agree with them that section 4.3.7B4 is not been enough evidence. But I think having those 5 conditions of approval will address that and especially that concern from not having enough evidence. So I can support this with those 5 conditions of approval. And I appreciate the extra diligence and research and looking into this from our staff because it is very unique and perplexing situation. And it's unfortunate for folks who are trying very hard to have a dream home or to move. It'd be great to live close to family. So I understand that one. So I think that with those 5 conditions for approval, I can support this because I think that would help address to provide more sufficient evidence for that section of land use code that I keep mentioning. So I will be supporting this only if we have all those 5 conditions of approvals as listed. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I too will support the Wolf Properties LLC appeal. I mean, the crux of the matter is seeking to appeal sections 4.3.7B1 and 4.3.7B2 of the Land Use Code. And the purpose of that section of the Land Use Code is to implement the comprehensive plan, and a good part of that is making sure that there are adequate public and or private utilities, facilities, and all that. So seeking a variance of that, the conditions of approval that we've discussed, the 5 conditions of approval, I think address those issues. And then the other aspect of this, the review criteria for appeals to deviate from standards or requirements other than minimum lot size. Based on the information that we received from staff, it looks like those criteria are also met. And for all of those reasons, I agree with my colleagues to approve this, this appeals request. And so, with that, let's see, Commissioner Shattuck McNally, would you be kind enough to offer the motion?
Certainly.
Oh, there it is.
I move to approve that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Wolf Properties LLC appeal, file number 24-GNRL 0559, subject to the 5 conditions listed on the board. Is that sufficient, Mr. Attorney, so I don't read all 5? Okay.
Yes, I
Thank
believe
you.
so. Thank you, Commissioner. That is a proper motion. Any further comments or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Good luck finding the water. I believe it's supposed to be there, so good luck with all of that, and good luck with moving forward in your life. And as a grandpa, we have one of our grandkids 5 miles away, and I can certainly relate to that. Thank you all very much. We are adjourned at 3:55 p.m.